And that fall, I was told to go home early. I didn't know why. When I went out on the street, there was a lot of litter on the streets, and I saw an Orthodox Jewish man walking down the street with the Torah scrolls on his back, rolling down. Obviously, that could never be done. And that was the night of the broken glass, the Kristallnacht. I was able to get home safely, but my mother's brother was arrested, as were a great many Jewish men, and others were forced to clean the streets with their toothbrushes and so forth. My uncle had retained his Czech citizenship and consequently was released very quickly. Mentioning the Czech factor, I felt very much at home here in Hopkins because of the many Bohemians who were among the founders in Hopkins. Immediately, all Jewish people tried to find a way to get out of the country, and it wasn't very easy because most countries wouldn't take them. My uncle, being a Czech, was able to get out, went to England, and immediately started doing things to help me get out. And I was able to get a visa that said admitted to the United Kingdom as a trainee to learn a trade, after which I was to leave again. I applied for an exit permit. My father and I stood at Gestapo headquarters. We had to be there at 6 o'clock in the morning and submit everything that I was to take with me. I left with a kinder transport, and on the train, looking out of my window, my parents were waving goodbye to me, and that was the last time I saw them. We came to Hoek van Holland and took a ferry over to England, and on the ferry was the first time I was able to use my knowledge of the English language by asking, where's the toilet? In London, I stayed in the hostel overnight, and then was put on the train to Manchester, where the refugee committee put me with a British couple with whom I was to stay, and I was to work at an optical lab. I didn't make enough money to pay for my board and room, so every week I went to a representative of the refugee committee, which gave me money, and every time I earned a little bit more money, they gave me a little bit less, until I was able to support myself. I was able to correspond with my parents, but they had to be very careful what they said, because all the letters had been opened by the censor. They did tell me, however, that they went all over Vienna, consulates everywhere, trying to find a place that would accept them, which was difficult because by that time Jews were not allowed to have telephones or radios or use public transportation, and my father wasn't very well. My uncle, who by that time had been able to come to the United States, tried to get an affidavit for them. An affidavit was a document signed by a guarantor that the immigrant would not be dependent upon welfare or any government help. The first affidavit that he obtained was considered insufficient because of the salary of the person. Eventually, however, he did get an affidavit, and it was sent to the State Department. A man at the State Department in Breckenridge Long was in charge of visas. And he sent out a notice to all the consulates in Europe, hold up the visas as long as possible. Eleanor Roosevelt, according to a biography that I read, said to her husband, Franklin, this man is a fascist. And the FDR said, oh, you mustn't say that. And she said, yes, but I will. Well, eventually the visa was sent to Vienna, but in the meantime, my parents had been forced to move from their apartment to another apartment which they had to share with another family, and from there to still another place where they had to share a single room with another family. When the visa came, the postcard was sent, but it had been forwarded several times, and by that time it was December 1941, and the American consulate, of course, had closed and their parents were trapped. After that, we still corresponded by way of the United States. They sent letters to the United States, and then to me, and I responded the same way. It took quite a while, but we got through. After the war, I found out what had happened to them. The SS came to their apartment and arrested all the people who were there and took them to a school building where they spent the night, and from there they were put on the train in a freight car without food or water, just a bucket, single bucket for toilet. And the train took several days to get to Minsk, the city of Minsk, and according to the Red Cross, everybody who arrived in Minsk was shot. So that was the end of them. In Manchester, in the meantime, we had area shelters, and German planes flew overhead every night to bomb the city of Liverpool, but somehow they were bombed Manchester. So after a while, we became complacent, and when the area sounded, we just didn't bother to get out of bed. Until one day the Germans decided to bomb Manchester. By that time it was too late to get to the shelter, which was a block away from us, so we all huddled under the steps. And the bomb hit the house across the street from us and killed the people and tore the front of our house. We moved temporarily with relatives of my landlady. Actually, it was an old lady and her daughter who became a surrogate mother for me. We then moved to an apartment. And being an enemy alien, I was supposed to be indoors by 10 o'clock, except the kids with air raid. And there was one other exception. I volunteered to spend one night a week in the attic of the building where I worked. There were two of us in the attic with a bucket of sand and a shovel in case an incendiary bomb came through